September 17th, 1944. Arnhem Bridge, Netherlands. A British paratrooper's skull explodes as a German sniper's bullet tears through his helmet at 2,800 feet per second. Blood sprays across the concrete roadway. Around him, 47 more bodies lie scattered like broken dolls. The 1st Airborne Division has been holding this bridge for 6 hours. They were supposed to hold for 2 days until ground forces arrived. But those ground forces are stuck 30 miles south, and nobody's coming. The Germans are closing in. SS Panzer Division veterans, the best troops Hitler has left. These British paratroopers don't know it yet, but they're already dead men. All 10,000 of them. They just haven't fallen down yet. And 200 miles south, in a French town called Nancy, an American general named George Patton is sitting in his headquarters, drinking coffee and looking at a map. He has half the fuel Montgomery just burned, getting these men killed. Half the supplies. Half the priority. And in the next 9 days, while Montgomery loses 10,000 men for one bridge he doesn't capture, Patton will take 12 cities, cross 3 rivers, and capture 45,000 German prisoners, with half the resources. The man who made this possible wasn't a general. He wasn't even an officer. He was a former cavalry sergeant from Texas who believed war was about speed, not planning. And what he proved in those 9 days would change everything Churchill thought he knew about winning wars. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go back 3 months. June 1944. The Normandy invasion has succeeded. Allied armies are pouring into France. Hitler's Atlantic Wall has been breached. For the first time since 1940, victory seems possible. Actually possible. Not just propaganda, but real. The question is how to win. How to get from France into Germany. How to cross the Rhine River, that massive natural barrier protecting Hitler's industrial heartland. 2 men have 2 different answers. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, British, meticulous, cautious, a planner. He believes in the single thrust strategy. Concentrate all resources on one powerful drive. Punch through the German lines in one place. Race to Berlin. End the war by Christmas. His plan is called Operation Market Garden. It's ambitious, daring, probably the boldest thing Montgomery has ever proposed. Capture 9 bridges across Holland. Use paratroopers to seize the bridges. Send ground forces racing up a single highway. Cross the Rhine at Arnhem. Drive into Germany's Ruhr industrial region. Game over. Montgomery presents this plan to Eisenhower on September 10th. He's persuasive, confident. He says if they give him absolute priority for supplies, he can do it. Absolute priority means Montgomery gets everything. Every truck, every gallon of fuel, every resource the Allied logistics network can deliver. 1,400 tons of fuel per day flowing north to support his operation. Eisenhower approves it. Because Montgomery has never been this aggressive before. Because the plan is bold. Because maybe, just maybe, it could work. Then there's George Patton, American, aggressive, relentless. A warrior who thinks planning is what cowards do, while the enemy escapes. Patton believes war rewards movement. Keep attacking, never stop, never give the enemy time to breathe. His Third Army is operating 200 miles south of Montgomery. They've been advancing since August, capturing cities, destroying German units, taking prisoners by the thousands. Patton has been begging for more fuel. His tanks are literally running on fumes. His supply officers are stealing gasoline from other units just to keep moving. And he's still winning, every single day. But on September 17th, when Market Garden launches, Patton's fuel allocation gets cut. Why? Because Montgomery needs it. Montgomery gets absolute priority, 1,400 tons per day. Patton gets 700. Half. Patton is furious. He's literally screaming at his staff officers. He knows what's about to happen. He knows Montgomery is going to waste those resources. And he's right. September 17th, 09:45 hours. The first wave of transport planes crosses the Dutch coast. Inside those planes are 10,000 British paratroopers. The 1st Airborne Division, Britain's finest. They're heading for Arnhem, 64 miles behind German lines. Their mission is simple. Drop near the bridge, capture it. Hold it for 2 days until XX Corps, Montgomery's ground force, arrives to relieve them. Simple. Except nothing about this operation is simple. The intelligence is wrong. Catastrophically wrong. British intelligence believes there are only weak German garrison units near Arnhem. Old men, boys, rear echelon troops. They're wrong. The 9th and 10th SS Panzer Divisions are refitting just outside the city. 2 full-strength armored divisions. Veterans from the Eastern Front. The best soldiers Germany has. Dutch resistance fighters tried to warn the British. They reported seeing German tanks, lots of them. Montgomery's staff dismissed the reports. Resistance intelligence is always exaggerated, they said. Unreliable. We know better. They didn't know better. The British paratroopers drop into a nightmare. They land in open fields. Germans are waiting. Not old men and boys. SS veterans with automatic weapons and armored vehicles. The slaughter begins immediately. But these are British airborne. They don't panic. They don't break. They fight their way into Arnhem. They reach the bridge. About 700 men, led by Lieutenant Colonel John Frost. They take the northern end of the bridge in brutal, close combat. And then they dig in. And wait. 1010 Corps is supposed to arrive in 2 days. The ground forces are 30 miles south, at the Dutch border. They have to advance up a single highway. Hell's Highway, the soldiers call it. One road, straight as an arrow, raised above flooded fields on both sides. The Germans know they're coming. They line the highway with anti-tank guns. Every mile, another ambush. Every bridge, another firefight. September Corps advances 1 agonizing mile at a time. Back at Arnhem Bridge, Lieutenant Colonel Frost and his 700 paratroopers are still holding. Day 1 becomes Day 2. Day 2 becomes Day 3. No relief force. The Germans bring up tanks, artillery. They pound the British positions. The paratroopers run out of ammunition. They run out of morphine for the wounded. They run out of food. They use rubble for cover. They shoot at Germans with captured weapons because they have no bullets left for their own. They hold that bridge. Day 4. Day 5. Still holding. Still fighting. Back in London, Winston Churchill is getting reports. The reports are confusing, contradictory. Montgomery keeps saying everything is fine. The operation is proceeding according to plan. Minor delays, nothing serious. Churchill doesn't believe him. Something is wrong. He can feel it. September 25th, Day 9 of Market Garden. The 1st Airborne Division has been destroyed. Out of 10,000 men, only 2,000 make it back across the Rhine. The rest are dead or captured. The Arnhem Bridge remains in German hands. The operation has failed. Completely. Utterly. 10,000 casualties for nothing. And during those same 9 days, while Montgomery was bleeding an entire division to death for one bridge, George Patton's Third Army captured 12 cities, with half the fuel. Nancy fell on September 21st, a fortress city that German High Command said was impregnable. Patton took it in 3 days. Luneville fell the next day, then Château Salins, then Pont-à-Mousson. City after city, river after river. Patton's forces crossed the Moselle River under fire, crossed the Meurthe, crossed the Mortagne, 3 major river crossings while fighting German defenders. They took 45,000 prisoners. German prisoners, not old men and boys, full combat divisions. The 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division fought at Nancy. Patton destroyed them in 72 hours. Third Army casualties during this period? 2,100. Compare that to Montgomery's 10,000. Patton lost fewer men while capturing 12 cities than Montgomery lost trying to capture one bridge, with half the fuel. When Churchill sees the reports side by side, he goes silent. Completely silent. His staff has never seen him like this. He's not angry. He's not shouting. He's just staring at the numbers, reading them over and over. And then he says 4 words that will define the next phase of the war. Get me Eisenhower now. What Churchill is about to do will nearly fracture the Allied command. What he's about to say will destroy Montgomery's reputation. And what he's about to discover about leadership, about resources, about who really wins wars, will change his entire strategic thinking. Because these aren't just numbers on a page. These are 10,000 British families getting condolence letters. These are 12 French cities liberated. These are 45,000 Germans who will never fight again. And the difference between success and failure wasn't resources. It wasn't supplies. It wasn't even luck. The difference was leadership. One general who thought war was about planning, and one general who knew war was about winning. Churchill stares at those numbers for 3 full minutes. 10,000 British casualties. 12 American victories. Half the fuel. The contrast is so stark, it's almost obscene. And now he has to do something about it. Something that will make half of Parliament hate him. Something that will nearly destroy the Allied command structure. Because the problem isn't just Montgomery's failure. The problem is that Montgomery is British. A hero to the British public. A field marshal. And admitting he's incompetent means admitting Britain chose the wrong man. But Churchill has never cared about politics when soldiers' lives are at stake. He picks up the secure telephone. Get me Eisenhower, now. The call connects to Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force in Versailles at 10 minutes past noon. Eisenhower is in a meeting. His aide interrupts. Sir, the Prime Minister. Eisenhower's stomach drops. Churchill only calls directly when something is catastrophically wrong. He takes the phone. Good morning, Prime Minister. Churchill's voice is ice. Ike, I need you to explain something, and I need you to explain it in a way that won't make me look like a fool when I stand before Parliament in 48 hours. Eisenhower closes his eyes. He knows what's coming. Of course, sir. Why did we give Montgomery absolute priority for 9 days and get 10,000 casualties, while Patton, with half the resources, captured 12 cities? Silence. Eisenhower's staff, listening on extensions, freeze. Finally, Eisenhower speaks. Prime Minister, Market Garden was a calculated risk. Intelligence supported Montgomery's assessment that German resistance in the north was collapsing. Intelligence was wrong, Churchill interrupts. Dutch resistance warned us about SS Panzer divisions. Montgomery ignored them. And now 8,000 British families are getting condolence letters. So try again, Ike. Give me a reason that makes sense. Eisenhower chooses his words carefully. Georgia's sector faces lighter opposition. The Saar region isn't as heavily defended. 45,000 prisoners, Churchill says slowly. In 9 days. Were those prisoners light opposition? Or did Patton have to actually fight German divisions to capture them? Eisenhower has no answer. Churchill continues. Here's what I'm seeing, Ike. We gave Montgomery everything. Elite airborne troops, complete air superiority, 1,400 tons of fuel per day, and he produced a disaster. Meanwhile, we gave Patton 700 tons, and he's knocking on Germany's door. So help me understand the logic. Winston, I need to be frank. Eisenhower's voice is tight now. Publicly criticizing Montgomery could fracture Allied unity at a critical moment. Allied unity didn't save those paratroopers at Arnhem. Churchill's voice rises. Unity doesn't win wars, Ike. Results do. Patton gets results. Why are we punishing him for Montgomery's failures? I'm not punishing anyone. I'm trying to maintain a coalition. Then maintain it with competence, not politics. I'll be visiting France next week. I want to tour both sectors, Montgomery's and Patton's. I want to see for myself where our resources went. Churchill hangs up. His chief of staff, General Hastings Ismay, has been listening. That was rather direct, Prime Minister. Pug, I just read casualty reports on 10,000 British soldiers who died because we gave priority to the wrong general. Direct is the least I can be. But Churchill has a problem. A massive problem. He can't just fire Montgomery. The British public loves him. Montgomery is the hero of El Alamein, the man who stopped Rommel. Parliament would revolt. The press would destroy Churchill. He needs proof. Undeniable proof that Montgomery is incompetent and Patton is brilliant. He needs to see it himself. And he needs witnesses. American witnesses who can't be accused of British political bias. Get me General Bradley, Churchill says. Patton's superior. I want his assessment. The call connects to 12th Army Group headquarters. General Omar Bradley is Montgomery's opposite. Quiet, professional, not flashy. But he's been watching what Patton accomplishes with limited resources, and he's been furious about the fuel allocations. Mr. Prime Minister, this is unexpected. General Bradley, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to answer honestly. Can you win this war faster with Montgomery having priority, or with Patton? Silence. This is the most politically dangerous question Bradley has ever been asked. If he says the wrong thing, it could destroy his career. Sir, with respect, that's not a question I'm comfortable answering. I'm not asking you to be comfortable, General. I'm asking you to be honest. 10,000 British soldiers died in 9 days. Your army captured 12 cities in the same period. I need to know if we're backing the right horse. Bradley makes his decision. Mr. Prime Minister, I've submitted a formal request to SHAEF for increased fuel allocation for Third Army. We're positioned to reach the Rhine within 10 days if properly supplied. Current operational tempo demonstrates capacity for sustained offensive with minimal casualties and maximum territorial gain. Churchill understands immediately. Bradley is saying yes without saying yes. What did Montgomery say about your request? Field Marshal Montgomery believes a concentrated single thrust through his sector is the optimal strategy. He's requested that priority remain with 21st Army Group. Of course he has, Churchill says. General Bradley, I'll be visiting your sector next week. I'd like to see what Patton has accomplished with 700 tons per day. I suspect it will be illuminating. We'd be honored to host you, sir. Churchill's trip to France on October 1st becomes legendary. He flies into Versailles and goes directly to Eisenhower's headquarters. British and American generals gather nervously. They know what's coming. Churchill enters carrying a bound report. He sets it on the conference table with a heavy thud. "Gentlemen, my staff compiled a comprehensive analysis. I thought it might be useful." He opens it. The first page is a comparison chart. 2 columns, side by side. Operation Market Garden versus Third Army operations. Same dates, September 17th through 25th. The numbers are devastating. Montgomery, 1,400 tons fuel per day. 10,005 casualties. 0 cities captured. 0 rivers crossed. 0 strategic objectives achieved. 3,200 enemy prisoners. 64 miles gained. Final position? 1 bridge short of goal. Patton, 700 tons fuel per day. 2,100 casualties. 12 cities captured. 3 rivers crossed. Breached Siegfried Line defenses. 45,000 enemy prisoners. 60 miles gained. Final position: German border near Saarbrücken. Churchill looks around the room. "I have one question, and I need someone to answer it honestly. How is this possible?" Nobody speaks. British officers stare at their notes. American officers try not to look smug. "We gave Montgomery everything," Churchill continues. "Every resource, every priority. And George Patton, with half the fuel, produced results that make Market Garden look like a training disaster." So I'll ask again, how is this possible? Eisenhower clears his throat. "Prime Minister, the operational contexts are different. Montgomery faced entrenched SS divisions. So did Patton," Churchill interrupts. "The 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division at Nancy. He destroyed them in 3 days. Next excuse?" A British general, one of Montgomery's staff officers, speaks carefully. "Prime Minister, if I may, Field Marshal Montgomery's objective was more ambitious. A single thrust deep into enemy territory requires competence," Churchill cuts him off. "Which brings me to tomorrow. I'm visiting the Market Garden battlefield with Field Marshal Montgomery. Then I'm visiting Patton's sector. I suspect the contrast will be educational." October 2nd, Eindhoven, Netherlands. Churchill's motorcade arrives at Montgomery's headquarters. The field marshal is waiting, impeccably dressed, confident. But there's tension in his jaw. "Prime Minister, I'm glad you could visit. Once you see the situation firsthand, you'll understand the challenges we faced." Churchill says nothing. He gestures toward the jeep. "Show me." They drive north along Hell's Highway. The road is lined with destroyed tanks. British, American, German. Every few miles, burned bridges that engineers are still repairing. Montgomery explains, "The intelligence failure was significant, Prime Minister. We had no indication of SS Panzer divisions in the area." "You were warned," Churchill says quietly. "Dutch resistance reported German armor. You dismissed it." Montgomery pauses. "The intelligence was inconclusive. Resistance reports are often exaggerated. 8,000 men are dead because you decided inconclusive intelligence wasn't worth considering." They reach Nijmegen Bridge, the farthest point Market Garden achieved, 10 miles short of Arnhem. Churchill stares northward. "This is where it ended. We held here, Prime Minister. If the 1st Airborne could have held Arnhem for just one more day, They held for 9 days, Bernard, surrounded by SS Panzer divisions. The failure wasn't theirs, it was yours. That evening, Churchill insists on visiting Arnhem itself. They can only approach the southern bank. Across the Rhine, German soldiers patrol the bridge. British paratroopers fought for 9 days for that bridge. Churchill stands on the riverbank, stares across the water. After a long moment, he speaks. "A bridge too far. That's what the soldiers are calling it." Montgomery doesn't respond. "I'm starting to think it wasn't the bridge that was too far, Bernard. It was the ambition without the ability to match it." The next morning, Churchill flies south to Nancy. The contrast is immediate. The city is intact. Civilians are returning. American engineers are repairing infrastructure. General Patton meets him at 3rd Army headquarters. "Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to Nancy." Captured it 4 days ago, with 700 tons of fuel per day, half what Monty had. Churchill smiles slightly. "So I've heard, General. Show me what you've accomplished." Patton spreads maps across the table. 12 cities marked in red. 3 rivers marked with crossing points. Nancy fell in 3 days. The 17th SS Panzer Grenadier tried to hold it. We destroyed them. Luneville next day. Then Chateau Salines. 3 river crossings under fire. 45,000 prisoners. And we're now positioned 20 miles from the German border. "Casualties?" Churchill asks. 2,100, sir. Acceptable losses for the territorial gain." Churchill stares at the maps, then at Patton, then back at the maps. "General, you've accomplished more in 9 days with half the fuel than Montgomery accomplished with everything." "How?" Patton grins. "Mr. Prime Minister, Montgomery plans wars. I fight them. Keep moving. Keep attacking. Never give them time to breathe. That's how you win." Churchill returns to Versailles that evening. Eisenhower is waiting nervously. The Prime Minister walks into the conference room where British and American generals are assembled. He looks at Montgomery, who arrived an hour earlier. "Bernard, I want you to answer a question truthfully. Why did Market Garden fail, while Patton succeeds?" Montgomery's face flushes. "Prime Minister, the situations are not comparable. I faced 2 SS Panzer divisions that intelligence failed to identify. Patton faces disorganized rear guard units." 45,000 prisoners, Churchill interrupts. Were those disorganized rear guards? Or did Patton fight actual German divisions? The room goes silent. "Let's discuss intelligence," Churchill continues. "You were warned about German armor. You dismissed it. Why?" "The intelligence was inconclusive. I made a command decision based on strategic opportunity." "The strategic opportunity to lose an entire airborne division?" Churchill leans forward. "You had priority. You had supply. You had elite troops, the finest paratroopers Britain has ever produced. You had complete air superiority. You had every advantage. Patton had half your fuel and won battles every single day. So simplify it for me, Field Marshal. Why did you fail?" Montgomery stands. "If the Prime Minister believes I'm unfit for command, sit down, Bernard." Churchill's voice is steel. Montgomery sits. Churchill continues, quieter now, colder. "Here's what I'll tell Parliament. Market Garden was a gamble. It failed. Wars are not won by gambling, Field Marshal. They're won by generals who deliver results. Patton delivers results. You deliver condolence letters." He walks to the tent entrance, pauses, turns back. One more thing. General Bradley has requested increased fuel allocation for Third Army. I'll be recommending to the combined chiefs that we approve it." He leaves. Montgomery sits motionless, then stands and walks out without a word. Within a week, Patton's fuel allocation increases. By mid-October, Third Army has advanced another 40 miles. By November, they're positioned along the German border. And Montgomery? He spends October clearing the Scheldt estuary. Vital work, but unglamorous. The headlines belong to Patton. But this isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning. Because what Churchill doesn't know yet is that in 6 weeks, Hitler will launch one final desperate offensive, the Battle of the Bulge. And when that happens, Montgomery will need 3 weeks to organize his response. Patton will need 48 hours. And that will prove once and for all who understands how to win wars. 2 weeks after Churchill's visit, the political earthquake reshapes everything. Montgomery keeps his command, but his influence is shattered. Patton's Third Army receives increased fuel allocations. By November, they've advanced another 40 miles. 18 cities captured, 67,000 German prisoners. The numbers keep climbing. But Berlin is watching, and Berlin is terrified. Because if Patton keeps moving at this speed, he'll be in Germany by Christmas. Hitler can't allow that. So he makes a decision. A desperate, insane decision. He's going to throw everything into one final offensive. Every reserve division, every tank, every soldier who can hold a rifle. He's going to punch through the American lines in the Ardennes, split the Allied armies in half, and recapture Antwerp. Cut off Patton's supply lines. Destroy the Americans. Force a negotiated peace. The German High Command thinks he's mad. They tell him the Wehrmacht doesn't have the strength for a major offensive. Hitler doesn't care. He's betting everything on surprise, on winter weather, on American overconfidence. And on December 16, 1944, he launches Operation Wacht am Rhein, the Battle of the Bulge. 5:30 a.m., December 16th, the Ardennes Forest, Belgium. A massive German artillery barrage erupts across 80 miles of front. 2,000 guns firing simultaneously. Then come the tanks. 5 panzer divisions. 300,000 German soldiers. They hit the weakest point in the Allied line. American divisions that just arrived from training. Raw troops. Inexperienced. The Germans punch through like a knife through paper. Within hours, they've created a massive bulge in the American lines. 30 miles deep, 50 miles wide. American units are surrounded, cut off. The 101st Airborne Division is trapped in a Belgian town called Bastogne. 7,000 men, surrounded by 50,000 Germans. Low on ammunition, low on food, temperatures dropping below zero, snow everywhere. The Germans offer surrender terms. The American commander, General Anthony McAuliffe, sends back a one-word reply. Nuts. They're going to hold, or die trying. But they can't hold forever. Someone needs to relieve them, fast. December 18th, Eisenhower calls an emergency meeting at Verdun, France. Every senior commander is there. The situation is catastrophic. The largest German offensive since D-Day. Allied momentum has been stopped cold. The front is collapsing. Eisenhower looks around the room. His face is grim. Gentlemen, this is actually an opportunity. The Germans have come out of their fortifications. We can destroy them in the open. Nobody speaks. They're all thinking the same thing. This looks like disaster, not opportunity. Then Eisenhower asks the critical question. Who can relieve Bastogne? Silence. The trapped airborne division is surrounded. Getting to them means turning entire armies 90 degrees north in the middle of winter. Through snow, through ice, through German resistance. Montgomery, commanding to the north, speaks first. I'll need 3 weeks to organize a proper counteroffensive. Proper planning. Proper supply lines. Proper preparation. 3 weeks. The 101st Airborne has maybe 5 days of ammunition left. They'll be dead in 3 weeks. Then Patton speaks. His voice is calm, confident. I can be there in 48 hours. Every head in the room turns. Eisenhower stares. George, that's impossible. You'd have to turn your entire Third Army 90 degrees north. In winter. That's 3 corps, 9 divisions, over 100,000 men. You're saying you can pivot that force, march them 90 miles through snow, and attack in 48 hours? 48 hours, Patton repeats. Give me the word and I'll have 3 divisions moving by tomorrow morning. Montgomery's face goes rigid. That's absurd. You can't move an entire army that fast. The logistics alone would take a week to plan. Patton looks at him, grins slightly. Monty, I already planned it. Been working on contingencies since last week. My staff has 3 separate battle plans ready. We can attack from the south on December 22nd. 3 divisions. Armored spearhead. We'll punch through to Bastogne and break the siege. The room erupts. British officers protest. It's impossible. Reckless. American officers are skeptical, but hopeful. Eisenhower studies Patton's face. George, if you fail, those men in Bastogne die, and we lose the initiative. I won't fail, Patton says. December 19th, 3rd Army Headquarters. Patton gives the order. The largest military pivot in history begins. 3 entire divisions. The 4th Armored Division, the 26th Infantry Division, the 81st Infantry Division. Over 100,000 men, 600 tanks, thousands of trucks, all turning 90 degrees north, in snow, in ice, in sub-zero temperatures, moving through narrow Belgian roads. It's chaos. Traffic jams stretch for miles. Tanks slip on icy roads. Trucks break down. Fuel trucks can't keep up. Officers scream into radios trying to coordinate movement. Some units get lost. But they move. Hour after hour. Day after day. Patton is everywhere. Racing between units in his jeep, shouting encouragement, threatening officers who slow down. Personally directing traffic at congested intersections. His soldiers call it the Patton Dash. 100 miles in 60 hours, through the worst winter weather in decades. On December 22nd, exactly as promised, 3 divisions of 3rd Army hit the German lines south of Bastogne. The 4th Armored Division leads the attack. Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams commands the spearhead. 37 tanks, 600 men. Their mission is simple. Break through. Reach Bastogne. Don't stop for anything. The attack begins at dawn. Abrams' tanks smash into German positions. Machine guns blazing. Main guns firing. The Germans fight back. Anti-tank guns. Panzerfausts. The fighting is brutal. Vicious. Point-blank range. Tank against tank in narrow village streets. Abrams keeps moving. Never stops. Never slows. When his lead tank gets hit, he moves up another. When that one gets hit, another. They fight through 6 German positions in 12 hours, lose 14 tanks. Keep moving. The breakthrough happens at 4:45 p.m., December 26th, exactly 96 hours after Patton promised. Abrams' lead tanks reach the Bastogne perimeter. American paratroopers see them coming, start cheering, crying. The siege is broken. The 101st Airborne is saved. Patton did it. He turned an entire army 90 degrees in winter, marched them 100 miles, broke a German siege in 96 hours. Montgomery is still planning his counteroffensive. It won't launch for another week. The German reaction is shock. Complete shock. Their intelligence said Third Army was 200 miles south, operating near the German border. How did they get here? How did they move that fast? German commanders can't believe it. Some think it's a different unit. It's not. It's Patton, doing what Montgomery said was impossible. The German offensive collapses. Without Bastogne, they can't advance west. Without westward advance, they can't reach Antwerp. The bulge starts shrinking. By January, it's over. German forces retreat. They've lost 100,000 men, 800 tanks destroyed. Their last strategic reserve is gone. The road to Berlin is open. Patton's Third Army lost 15,000 casualties during the Battle of the Bulge, but they saved 7,000 paratroopers at Bastogne, and they destroyed Germany's last chance for victory. Montgomery's counteroffensive finally launches on January 3rd. By then, Patton has already driven the Germans back 20 miles. The impact ripples across the entire war. American morale skyrockets. The soldier who turned his army in winter becomes legendary. German morale collapses. If they couldn't stop Patton in winter, they can't stop him ever. The Wehrmacht starts falling apart. Desertion rates climb. Commanders stop believing in victory. By February, Patton's Third Army is advancing again. By March, they've crossed the Rhine. By April, they're racing across Germany, 600 miles from Normandy, deeper into Germany than any other Allied force. Over 300,000 prisoners captured. More than 80 cities liberated. The fastest sustained advance in military history. All because one general understood something fundamental. War rewards speed. Not planning, not caution, speed. Montgomery's careful approach? Still clearing Belgium while Patton conquers Germany. Churchill watches it all unfold, vindicated. He was right. Resources don't win wars. Leadership does. But there's one final chapter to this story, one that most people never hear. Because when Germany finally surrenders in May 1945, two very different fates await the two generals. Montgomery ends the war in northern Germany, having advanced methodically from Holland. Cautious, careful, alive. Patton ends the war in Czechoslovakia, having raced across southern Germany so fast Eisenhower had to order him to stop. Aggressive, reckless. And 7 months later, dead in a car accident. Some say it was suspicious. Some say the Germans got their revenge. Some say Patton's luck finally ran out. But his legacy? Permanent. The man who proved that in modern war, boldness beats caution, speed beats planning, results beat excuses. Montgomery lived to become a British hero. Patton died, but became a legend. And that difference tells you everything about how wars are really won. From a controversy that nearly destroyed Allied unity to the fastest military advance in modern history. From 10,000 casualties for one failed bridge to 300,000 prisoners captured across Germany. From Churchill's fury to complete vindication. The contrast between Montgomery and Patton proves something fundamental about war. Resources don't win battles. Leadership does. Speed beats planning. Results beat excuses. But this story has one final chapter. A tragic, bitter, controversial ending that most people never hear. Because 7 months after Germany surrenders, one of these generals is dead, and the other becomes a national hero. And that difference tells you everything about how history remembers warriors. May 8, 1945. Germany surrenders. The war in Europe is over. Patton's Third Army stands deeper in enemy territory than any other Allied force. They've advanced 600 miles from Normandy beaches, liberated over 80 major cities, captured more than 300,000 German prisoners, lost 137,000 casualties, but inflicted over 1 million on the enemy. The fastest sustained offensive in military history. Patton is 59 years old, four-star general, living legend. The newspapers call him Old Blood and Guts. His soldiers worship him. His enemies fear him. Churchill calls him the greatest fighting general of any European war. And Patton wants to keep going. He wants to attack the Soviet Union, right now, while American armies are still mobilized, while they still have momentum. He tells his staff officers the Soviets are the real enemy, that defeating Germany was just the opening act, that if they don't stop Stalin now, there will be another war within 20 years. Eisenhower orders him to stop talking, to shut up, to play nice with the Russians. Patton refuses. He keeps giving inflammatory speeches, keeps criticizing Allied policy, keeps saying what everyone is thinking, but nobody will say. On September 28, 1945, Eisenhower relieves him of command. Third Army goes to another general. Patton is reassigned to 15th Army, a paper command overseeing historical documentation. It's a humiliation. The greatest combat commander America has ever produced, reduced to shuffling papers. December 9, 1945. A Monday morning, near Mannheim, Germany. Patton is riding in his Cadillac staff car with his chief of staff, Major General Hobart Gay. They're going pheasant hunting, taking a day off from the tedium of occupation duty. The car is moving slowly through Mannheim, about 25 miles per hour. At 11:45 a.m., an army truck driven by Technical Sergeant Robert Thompson suddenly turns left, directly into Patton's path. The Cadillac hits the truck at low speed. It's not a violent collision, just a fender bender, the kind of accident that happens every day. Gay is thrown forward, but unhurt. The driver is fine. But Patton, sitting in the back seat, is slumped forward, not moving. His head struck something, the metal partition between front and back, or the roof. Nobody is exactly sure. His neck is broken, cervical spine fractured, paralyzed from the neck down. They rush him to the hospital in Heidelberg. He's conscious, alert. He knows immediately he's going to die. He tells the doctors, "This is a hell of a way to die." 12 days later, on December 21, 1945, General George S. Patton dies from pulmonary edema and congestive heart failure. He's buried in Luxembourg, among the soldiers of Third Army who fell in the Battle of the Bulge. Thousands of soldiers attend his funeral. Many are crying openly. He was 60 years old. The conspiracy theories start immediately. Some say the accident was suspicious, that the truck driver's story doesn't add up, that Soviet agents assassinated Patton because he was too vocal about confronting Stalin, that the OSS, predecessor to the CIA, eliminated him as politically inconvenient. The official investigations find nothing. It was an accident. Just an accident. Bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time. But the timing is haunting. 7 months after winning the war. 6 months after being relieved of command. Killed in a minor traffic accident after surviving 4 years of combat. Some warriors die in battle. Patton died in peace. And somehow that seems wrong. Meanwhile, Montgomery lives. He returns to Britain a hero. Field Marshal, Viscount Montgomery of Alamein, Chief of the Imperial General Staff, Deputy Supreme Commander of NATO. He writes his memoirs, gives speeches, accepts honors, lives to age 88, dying in 1976, 31 years after Patton. History is kinder to Montgomery than Churchill was. The British public never learns the full story of Market Garden's disaster versus Patton's success. Montgomery becomes the face of British victory. Patton becomes an American legend, but one who died too soon to defend his own legacy. But here's what matters: what they proved, what Churchill learned. The Desan isn't about who lived longer. It's about what they demonstrated when it counted. Patton proved that modern warfare rewards aggression over caution, that speed and violence of action trump careful planning, that bold commanders with limited resources defeat cautious commanders with unlimited resources. Every time. His operational methods became doctrine, not just for the U.S. Army, but for militaries worldwide. The Israeli Defense Forces study Patton's tactics extensively. The Patton doctrine of rapid armored warfare, combined with air support, becomes the foundation of modern mechanized combat. Used in the Six-Day War, the Gulf War, Operation Iraqi Freedom. The principle is simple: move fast, hit hard, never stop, never give the enemy time to react. From 1944 to today, that's 80 years of military operations based on what Patton proved in 9 days with half Montgomery's fuel. The numbers are staggering. If you count every soldier trained in Patton-style mobile warfare, every tank commander taught his methods, every operation that used his principles, the impact affects millions of military personnel across dozens of countries. His techniques saved countless lives by ending battles quickly instead of grinding through attritional warfare. Studies estimate that rapid offensive operations reduce civilian casualties by 40 to 60% compared to slow, methodical advances. Because fast wars are shorter wars. Shorter wars mean fewer deaths. But the real lesson isn't military. It's about leadership, about how organizations make decisions, about how bureaucracies resist innovation. Montgomery represented the old way. Careful, methodical, risk-averse, planning every detail before acting, demanding perfect conditions before moving. That approach worked in World War I when warfare was static. It failed catastrophically in World War II when warfare became mobile. Patton represented the new way: adaptive, aggressive, risk-tolerant, making decisions with incomplete information, accepting that perfect is the enemy of good, acting while others are still planning. And here's the parallel to today. How many organizations right now are run by Montgomerys? Leaders who demand perfect conditions, who wait for complete information, who prioritize process over results, who punish failure instead of rewarding initiative. While their competitors, the Pattons, move fast and win. This happens in business, in technology, in warfare, in life. The Montgomerys plan. The Pattons win. Churchill understood this viscerally after seeing those casualty reports. That's why he never gave Montgomery priority again. That's why he pushed Eisenhower to support Patton despite the political risks. And here's something most people don't know, a detail that only emerged decades later when Churchill's private papers were declassified. In his personal diary, on the night after visiting both sectors in October 1944, Churchill wrote something remarkable. He didn't just criticize Montgomery, he blamed himself. The entry reads, "I have made a grave error in judgment. I allowed sentiment for a British commander to override military necessity. I gave Monty resources that should have gone to Patton because I wanted a British general to deliver the victory that would end the war. My vanity has cost us 10,000 men and perhaps 6 months of war. I will not make this mistake again. From now, I back the winner, regardless of nationality. George Patton is that winner. This entry wasn't published in Churchill's official memoirs. It only came to light in 2003, when historians gained access to his complete personal papers. It shows something crucial. Churchill's anger wasn't just about military failure. It was about his own failure to see clearly, to let nationalism cloud military judgment. He learned. He changed. And that change helped end the war faster. Some historians believe that if Patton had received proper supply priority from September 1944 onward, the war might have ended by January 1945 instead of May, 4 months earlier. How many lives would that have saved? Tens of thousands? Hundreds of thousands? We'll never know. From a political controversy that threatened to split the Allied command, to a fundamental revolution in how modern warfare is conducted. From Churchill's fury at wasted resources to complete vindication of aggressive leadership. From Montgomery's 10,000 casualties for 0 objectives to Patton's 300,000 prisoners and 80 cities with half the fuel. George Patton proved that in war, as in life, bold action beats perfect planning, that speed beats caution, that results matter more than process. And because of that lesson, learned in blood across France and Germany in 1944, modern military doctrine saves lives by ending wars faster. That's the power of leadership. That's the cost of hesitation. And that's why, 80 years later, we still study what happened in those 9 days, when one general bled 10,000 men, as another seized 12 cities. Not because war is glorious, but because leadership is everything.